Everybody, and welcome to this edition, the third edition of Nuclear Heat for WrestlingInc.com. It is Thursday, October 15th, 2015. I'm Vince Russo, and you can also find me every day of the week at VinceRussoBrand.com. You could also find me here on WrestleInc.com on Monday nights when I'm part of the review of Raw following the show. Now, for this week's show, there was a request that I talk about, the talent that the WWE should push in the absence of John Cena. Let's face it, right now is probably not the best time for John Cena to be taking time off from the WWE. Now, some rumors have it that he's going to be doing a new exercise show. They haven't really come out and said or clarified or confirmed what it is that Cena is going to be doing. But we do know that after the next pay-per-view, he is going to be taking a little time off, probably at a time when the WWE needs him the most. Listen, Monday Night Football is kicking in. Major League Baseball, the playoffs and the World Series right around the corner. In the National League alone, you're going to have, two huge markets, competing. It's going to be the Cubs. We know it's Chicago, and it's going to be either New York or LA, whichever one. Those are two huge markets. The playoffs are going to do a big number. Not a good time for WWE. Rating down to a 2.3. And I got to be honest with you. I never thought the WWE would go down below a 3. I really thought a 3.0 was the benchmark, was the bottom line. But apparently I'm wrong. And the third hour of Raw this past week, was almost less than 3 million people. So there's a bit of a dilemma now. We're not going to have Cena. We've got to get the rating up. Who are the guys that we push? I want to look a little bit more deeper into who are the guys we push, because I don't go by the opinion of Vince Russo. I don't go by who Vince Russo likes, who Vince Russo would personally push, because my opinion, quite frankly, means nothing. The only thing that means anything is the opinion of the fans, and there are a few ways to find out exactly who they would like to see get pushed. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to go beyond the scale of, who the WWE should push. I've got 10 bullet points of what the WWE could do immediately to help get the ratings in the right direction. And quite frankly, these 10 points were off the top of my head. Nothing I had to really think about, just flaws in the show that I see. If these 10 adjustments were made, I think it would help the ratings, especially in the absence of John Cena. First and foremost, the first bullet point I have are stand-alone segments. Basically shorter matches, no match going over one segment. Each story is contained in one segment. What I mean by a segment is, usually in an hour of wrestling, there's about 5 segments. So you'll get, 12 hours of programming, a commercial, 12 hours of programming, a commercial, 12 minutes of programming, a commercial. So you usually have 5 segments with 5 commercial breaks per hour. That's just an average. It's a little different than that. I would make what we used to do in the Attitude Era was each segment was a stand-alone segment. There was one story in that segment. Very rarely did a match go through break. And the reason why it was that way was quite simply, we knew that the audience didn't have a very long attention span. So we tried to hit them with a story, commercial break, on to the next story, commercial break, on to the next story, because if you didn't keep tuning in, you might miss something. So can you imagine the attention span today with more options on TV compared to the attention span of the viewer 15 15 years ago. So right off the bat, I would break down the segments to standalone segments, one story per segment, not have these long, 3-segment matches where, because there are other options on the other channels, you may lose the audience. Now, don't get me wrong. Listen, there are two kinds of fans. There are wrestling fans and there are casual television viewers. Now, even though the wrestling fans do love the action and do love the matches, if you look at the numbers, we've lost the casual fan. And that casual fan is a television viewer that we need to bring back into the fold. So when I say shorter wrestling matches, it's no disrespect to wrestling fans. I'm just looking to broaden and widen that audience tuning in. That is now down to a 2.3. Number 2, real simple. You need hooks going into commercial and coming out of commercial. Again, everybody talks about how the landscape has changed, how there are so many other options out there. You're right, but that's why you've got to give them a reason to come back. You've got to go into a commercial with something strong that the viewer has to come back and see what happens. The same with when you're back from the commercial. You need to start off that segment hot, something that grabs you right away. This is a little trick that we used to use all the time. It's not used anymore. In professional wrestling, they'll go to a break during the middle of a match and, hope that the viewer comes back to see the rest of the match. Again, in today's environment, the landscape of television, you can't do that. You got to hook them. Hook. What's the hook to bring the audience back? Number 3, obviously more characters and more storylines on the show. In other words, rather than have 3-segment matches, have each segment be a standalone 10 or 12-minute segment. Use more of the talent you have that are sitting home right now. A lot of people say Raw is boring, and a lot of that is being attributed to the long matches. There's a lot of talent sitting at home that you're not using. I saw Jack Swagger come out for the lumberjack match. I forgot the guy was on the roster. But you got guys like Swagger, you got guys like Rose, you got guys like Sandow. There are so many guys that are on the WWE roster and are not being used. Incorporate them in the show, build their character, give them a storyline. So now, again, you're getting back to the Crash TV. And the Crash TV addresses the short attention span of the viewer. So you're hitting them with, boom, Swagger in seg 1, Rose in seg 2, Sandow in seg 3, Rollins in 4, Ambrose in 5. They're constantly getting a new look. If they don't keep on top of the show and keep coming back after every commercial, they're going to miss something new. Real simple, guys. Continuity. I talked a little bit about this on Monday. You can't forget what happened on the last show. You can't start every show like it's a brand new show and nothing happened the week before. There has been, prime examples on this the last couple of weeks. Example number 1, Kane drags Rollins through the mat at the end of the show. It's never followed up on. We don't know what happened. It's forgotten the following week on Raw. Just this week alone, the last week, a New Day left Cena laying, left Ziggler laying, left the Dudley Boys laying. No comeback this week by any of the baby faces. They completely forgot the damage that New Day did the week before. Last week, Ziggler accidentally kicked Cena in the face with a super kick. Not acknowledged this week. There's no continuity week after week. There's got to be more of a focus of let's look at last week's show and make sure we carry that into this week's show. We have to have the continuity. You can't write it week to week to week like the week before did not exist. Maybe this has something to do with so many writers and things are falling through the cracks. Maybe this has to do with, Vince McMahon being 70 now and Vince missing some of the stuff. I don't know, but you have to keep on top of continuity. Let me just look at my notes because I want to make sure I cover everything with you. Okay, characters need to stay true to their character. That you need the writers, Vince McMahon, they need to step in the boots of the character and make sure that those character traits are consistent week to week to week to week. Here's what I mean. Rollins has been the biggest flaw. A couple of months ago, Rollins didn't need anybody. He wanted to face Ambrose at the pay-per-view one by one. He did. Nobody helped him, and he beat Ambrose on his own. The next week, he was right back to kowtowing to Triple H, kissing Triple H's backside, telling Triple H how much he needed them and how much he needed the authority. The constant flip-flopping of Rollins has really hurt this character. And again, let me make this clear. Seth Rollins does not write the show. Writers write the show. He is going out and performing and doing what they tell him to do. So I don't put the onus on Rollins. I don't put the responsibility on Rollins. That is on the writing. But there needs to be consistency week after week after week. 2 weeks ago, the Authority were dancing in the ring with New Day. Triple H and Stephanie were dancing in the ring with them. The next week, they were reprimanding them, telling them not to play the trombone. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to get in the shoes of these characters, and these characters need to remain consistent week after week after week. That's how we build them. You're not going to build characters when they flip-flop. Every week they change their mind. They act a different way. We no longer know who that character is. So again, I think a lot of these problems, to be honest with you, are the fact that there just are too many writers. There's too many people involved. So nobody really is looking at the continuity. Nobody is really looking at the consistency that is vital in writing any television show. Also, focus on the talent you want to get over. And then what I would do is give that talent or assign that talent certain writers. Let certain writers work with certain talent on a consistent basis so they can make sure on a week-to-week basis nothing is falling between the cracks. In other words, maybe you assign a writing team to Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. Maybe you assign a writing team to Dolph Ziggler. Maybe you give a writing team to Cesaro. Keep the writers with the same talent. This way, they can start building in some form of consistency with the talent. If different writers are writing for the same talent week after week after week, that could explain the inconsistency in the characters. Give me a reason to tune into next week's show. I'm doing an exercise now where I'm watching the Attitude Era for Vince Russo brand.com, and we're doing kind of like a director's cut every week. But as I watch these shows, every single show, we're giving you at least 3 or 4 reasons why you have to tune in next week. We're teasing next week. What might happen next week? Who's going to appear on next week's show? Is Tyson going to make an appearance? Just this last show that I watched, Paul Bearer and Kane called out Austin next week. So we gave you a lot of reasons why you have to come back. Look at this week's show alone. Let's dissect this week's show. The show ends with Kane beating Seth Rollins in a lumberjack match. Period. End of story. Why am I coming back? What's the hook? Why can't I wait until next week's Raw? That's what I'm talking about. You have to set the table for the following week's Raw. You have to give the fans and the people a reason to come back. Now they did that briefly this past week when they told us Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair were going to be on the Raw in Texas. That's what I'm talking about. But there needs to be at least 3 or 4 things that the audience must come back and see next week. When you end the show with a period, there's no cliffhanger, there's no reason to come back. And as I said, to make matters worse, they ended it with sort of a cliffhanger a couple of weeks ago when Kane supposedly dragged Rollins down to hell. Unfortunately, they never followed up on it. So, again, you could hate Vince Russo all you want. That's fine. But everything I'm laying out to you are just really just elementary flaws in the writing of the television show. This has nothing to do with me thinking I'm a genius and I'm this and I'm that. This is any television show you look at. How many times do you know now where a network show, when a show is going to commercial? They leave you at a cliffhanger and the show is going to commercial. How many shows end with a cliffhanger where you have to tune in next week? I was just watching Blind Spot this past week. A cliffhanger why we got to tune in for next week. This is just how television is written. And, again, just some of the elementary things that they're really missing. Here's another one. Leave the arena. Get outside of the arena. Show the wrestlers in different elements. Give us a different feel of the show, especially since it's a 3-hour show. It all feels like same old wrestling match in the ring, promo in the ring. That's all. Leave the building. Get outside of the building, even if it's a fight in the locker room or, somebody arriving to the building, whatever the case may be. We used to do this every week. Paul Bearer is at the funeral parlor. I mean, whatever we can come up with, we used an excuse to leave the building to break up the monotony and make something stand out and make it appear special. You can also, again, use the character vignettes to do this. Do some, creative, edgy, exciting character vignettes to help build the characters. But when you're 3 hours in an arena and it's just match promo, maybe something in the authority's office, you gotta break it up a little bit more than that. This is a big one. Listen, I know people within the WWE. I talk to people within the WWE. This isn't rumor or hearsay. It's people I talk to. There is no doubt about it. Vince McMahon is still 100% in control. And from what I'm being told, like every piece of talent, with the exception of maybe a Cena, and maybe a Lesnar, and maybe an Orton, that are basically the last of a dying breed. From what I understand, every character is almost like a droid. They're given a promo. They're told exactly what to say, exactly what to do. They're put in a box, and they aren't allowed to leave that box. Well, the problem is, if you're not letting their true personality come through, they aren't making themselves unique, they aren't making themselves different, and they aren't making themselves special. Everyone is coming across as a robot. What I mean by that is the promos are very predictable. You know what Ryback is going to say before he says it. I mean, listen, if we all look at Roman Reigns' in-ring this past week, it was brutal. It was difficult to watch. And again, not on Reigns, but when you're told this is all you can say, no matter what the audience does or no matter how the audience responds, and you can't interject your own personality, that's what you're going to get. A lot of these promos are going to come across as not real and insincere. You've got to give these guys the ability to be themselves and be free and get their personality across. I think an exception to this rule is Bray Wyatt. I think when you see Bray cut the promo, you know that the promo's coming from Bray. You know it's coming from his head. It makes him unique. It makes him different. But again, that's the exception to the rule. Involve these guys more creatively in their promos, in their vignettes. I don't understand why they're not doing this. I mean, I really don't. I understand to some extent you want to control your product. You want to control the talent. You want to control everything that goes on the show. I understand that. But if you don't let the personalities come through, everybody is going to be cookie cutter, and it's going to look, sound, and feel like a professional wrestling show, whether it's from 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, today, it doesn't matter. That's what's happening now. Here's the most important thing. When we talk about, when I was asked, Vince, who would you put over during this time? I have to be honest with you. It's not about that. Yes, personally, there are people that I would put over. There are people that I enjoy more than others that I think have a ton of potential and are being kept down. I really enjoy Bray. I really enjoy Ziggler. I enjoyed what Sandow was doing as the stunt double. There are Paige. I love. There are people I really enjoy. But again, I would not go by my personal preference of, okay, who does Vince Russo want to get over? And it's real simple. Why not? Because not everybody thinks like Vince Russo. There may be another person that wants a whole different string of wrestlers to get over, and they want to see, push. So everybody's opinion is going to be different. This is something I dealt with a lot in the wrestling business. This is why Vince Russo didn't play well with others, because aside from Ed Ferrara, when I worked with other writers or other bookers, whatever you wanted to call them, they always wanted to push who they wanted to push. They always wanted to bury who they always wanted to bury. It was always their personal choice. And I would sit there and I would tell them, your opinion does not matter. My opinion doesn't matter. All that matters is the voice of the fans. And there are two ways that we can measure the voice of the fans. Two tools that I always use when I was writing wrestling. Number one, of course, the crowd response. These writers need to put themselves in the arena and listen to the response of the wrestlers, as they come out, as they're introduced, during the entrance, during their match. Listen to what the fans are telling you. If somebody is starting to get over, the fans will tell you that. If they think somebody is boring, the fans will tell you that. They let their feelings be known. That's number one. Number two, the most important thing that is not used at all today. I know, listen, I was just consulting at TNA a year ago, And nobody was using this a year ago. I know it's not being used. And that's the only tool we have to really measure what the people like and what they don't like. And it's never going to change in television, period. And that's the weekly ratings that we get. The WWE, they get the ratings. They could get a minute-by-minute breakdown, a quarter-hour breakdown every 15 minutes, a half-hour breakdown, an hour-by-hour breakdown. The ratings tell you everything. You can look and see who's in the ring and what the rating is drawing at that time. The ratings tell you what they're watching and what they're tuning out of. And it's not rocket science. It's real easy. The Attitude was so successful because when we got those ratings and we studied those ratings, we gave the fans more of what they wanted and took away what they weren't tuning into. So as you can see, that is an easy equation to get the ratings higher. Give them more of what they want. The ratings are going to go up. Take away what they're not watching. The ratings are going to go up. It's real simple. Nobody is looking and studying these ratings anymore. I guarantee it. That was a huge part of the success of the WWE and to some extent TNA when I was there. You know, people can say whatever they want about my run at TNA was a failure, this, that, or the other thing. All I know is this. When I was writing at TNA, the rate we were drawing 2 million people. Okay, today they can't crack 500,000. I can't tell you the last time they got 500,000. We were doing 2 million people. Why? Because Vince Russo was looking at the ratings. I was studying the ratings, you know, more than Dixie Carter, more than Spike TV. And whoever was over, we were putting out there. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the times the girls, the knockouts were outdrawing the guys. That's why at one point we had 2 knockout shows, 2 knockout matches on every show, because according to the ratings, they were watching the women over the men. But somehow today, when you have this at your fingertips, no one is any longer looking at these ratings. It's all about their opinions. It's all about who are we going to punish? Who are we going to put in the doghouse? And listen, that's not what's best for business. That's clearly not what's best for business. And don't believe me, but look at what the ratings are and look at what the audience is down to. So in the absence of Cena, study the ratings. Listen to who the fans are telling you that they want and give him or her to them. It's real simple. Let the fans dictate the direction of the company. That was the success of the Attitude Era, the most widely viewed era in the history of professional wrestling. We listened to you, the fans. Today, it's real simple. They're not listening. Those in charge are putting on a product they want to see. And I got to be honest with you, in Vince McMahon's case, that's really dangerous. This is a 70-year-old man putting a product out there that he thinks is good, that he likes, but the rest of the world is clearly telling us what they think. So it's real simple. Those are just 10 basics that I would go back to start correcting the problem with the ratings, get more people to tune into the show, especially with Cena being gone when they need more help now than ever before. So that's it for Nuclear Heat. I hope you join me for the rest of the week on VinceRussoBrand.com. And you can also see me on Monday with the rest of the guys when we review Raw right after the show on WrestlingInc.com. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I'll catch you all on the rebound.